Welcome to another installment to This or That. In this series, I pit two movies against each other, see which of them is more popular among audiences, and force my journalist colleagues to reveal whether they agree with public opinion or not. I'm Jeanette, an entertainment journalist and critic, and this is my friend Nick Brooks, also an entertainment journalist and critic. Hi, Nick.
I'm back.
I'm excited but apprehensive because today we are stacking up two iconic Clive Barker films, Hellraiser, 1987, and Candyman, 1992.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's a big matchup.
Yeah.
So to get right into it, my question for you is, which of these movies do you think is more popular among audiences?
Ooh, that's a good question. Because on the one hand, Candyman has like 4 sequels, but on the other, Hellraiser has like 11,000. But I also know that Hellraiser's switched studios and lowered their budget so many times. But I'm gonna say Hellraiser because the Cenobites, I knew what they were before I knew what Hellraiser was.
So yeah, I honestly thought the same thing, just because I feel like Hellraiser's so mainstream. Like even like, your grandma might know who Pinhead is, but it's actually Candyman, but it's like really close. So Hellraiser is slightly higher on IMDb with a 6.9 versus Candyman's 6.7. But other than that, Candyman beats it out on everything else: Rotten Tomatoes, Letterboxd, and the box office, which I did adjust for inflation. So
okay.
Technically, I'm giving it to Candyman because Hellraiser only has a beat in one category, which is...
How about that?
Yeah. I mean, I can see it. It kind of makes sense. But yeah, so now I'm going to ask you, do you agree with the public opinion? Do you think that Candyman deserves the title?
Yeah, I like Candyman a lot. He was one of the few horror icons that actually scares me. And I think the story is so... I always give kudos to any story that can create a modern myth in the same vein as like Bloody Mary or like Bigfoot or the Wendigo or stuff like that. Like I feel like Candyman is a really good modern myth and very clever. And that's all the topical things that go with it aside, just as a concept. I think it's, yeah, I'm happy with that.
Okay. I think I like what you said. I think I'm going to go in the opposite corner. And It feels quite insane to say that. But I really, really do love like the first half of Hellraiser. There's something like so darkly twisted about the whole Frank and Julia story. And they're like twisted love story. It's toxic, it's weird, it's absolutely bananas, but like you can't look, or I can't look away from it personally. And I mean, the special effects on Frank, I think are just so gnarly. They're so good,
I do go back and watch that a lot. I really like watching him. I like anything where like a person reconstitutes for some reason. I just think it looks really cool. So to see that done practically, like I can't knock your perspective on it at all, because I think that's what I do like about Hellraiser, is that compared to the sequels, that first one doesn't feel like what we would now consider a Hellraiser movie.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's interesting because I think the Candyman and Hellraiser experience are almost the opposite for me. Like Candyman, I almost enjoy, and I mean, you need the setup of it, but I enjoy like once Tony Todd shows up, you're like, oh, okay, which is kind of like it's pretty far into the movie. I feel like it's not until like 30, 40 minutes.
Something like that, like full body. Yeah.
Yeah, and you're like, oh, this is the guy. And so I think that's like when I'm more invested in that movie. Whereas like Hellraiser, I'm kind of invested in the beginning. And then when the Cenobites show up, ironically, I'm kind of like, like it gets a little too otherworldly for me. Not that a guy without his skin living in the attic isn't otherworldly, but I don't know. I'm just more interested in that first half. I would have loved to see it go like, I don't know, like a different direction somehow.
It's funny you use that comparison, because just this past Halloween, my fiance and I, we did Halloween Horror Nights, and there was a haunted house called Grave of Flesh. And your reaction was my reaction to that house, because apparently you're supposed to go into the grave. Like I think you died and you're in the ground, and these flesh-eating monsters like demons are trying to get you, and you're like underground going through like, and these corpses are trying to get you, these monsters are trying to get you, and then suddenly I guess we go to some form of an afterlife, and all of a sudden there's more rectangles and cubes and angled shapes and cool colors, and everything is just really weird and abstract, and it kind of feels like watching Hellraiser. Like all of a sudden we're in that hellscape of like grimy steampunk weirdness, and you just walk out, and I was just like, I didn't hate it, but like what were we going for there? So I can understand that shift in tone kind of swaying your opinion on that part.
Yeah, for sure. I like my horror a little more grounded, and I mean, both of these movies, that's Clive Barker for you. I mean, he loves this. So he's not really the guy you want to go into if you're into more grounded horror at all. But here we are. So Hellraiser is my pick. Okay. And we usually in these cases talk about the franchises, whether, you know, adding these movies, like thinking about the franchise as a whole would change our answer. I don't know if either of us are super schooled on like the franchises as a whole, but I don't know if you wanna, I know you're more versed in Candyman, because like you said, Hellraiser has 11 movies, whereas Candyman has 4, which is a pretty big difference.
I mean, when it comes to the franchises, as for the Candyman movies, I know of 2 and 3 I didn't watch. So, well, maybe I did. I don't know. You know, when you're just scrolling on TV and it's like 2 in the morning and there's a random horror movie on, that was me. So I probably watched them, but they didn't stick. I did watch the requel, which might be a hot take, but second viewing doesn't hit as hard as the first. But then you go to Hellraiser, and I have watched Hellraiser 2, bits and pieces of 3, I think. I know the franchise, but I've watched 1 and 2, and then I watched that remake that they did, and I enjoyed all of them equally. But I think this is one of those rare situations where both franchises just don't, like, dead set in the middle. Like, I don't think one is better than the other, and I don't think one is worse than the other. I think that they might just be movies that didn't need sequels, which I'm finding more and more movies like that.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, even us just talking, we found that a lot, even with Halloween. As much as I love some of those later movies, I'm good with just 78. And I think this is another great example where these movies probably would have remained iconic with just one. I mean, especially Hellraiser. I think some of those later movies are just so bizarre. But yeah, so I don't know, maybe instead of the franchises, maybe a more interesting question would be if you had to boot one of these slashers, like you're wiping them from existence. Are you sticking with Tony Todd's Candyman, or are you getting rid of Doug Bradley as Hellraiser?
I think I'm gonna stick with Candyman, but I'm also gonna loophole and say that I don't even know if I could count Pinhead as a true to form slasher until like Hell on Earth. So I think that Hellraiser on its own is more of like this abstract psychological supernatural horror or like thriller, and it kind of leans into like Clive Barker's, what I feel is like almost like an all hope is lost kind of horror tone, where like once you're in it, you're stuck in it. There's not really like a way out, and if you do get out, you won't be the same. It's a very like bleak horror tone, but it works with his, and I feel like Hellraiser works better outside of like the slasher space because of that. So either way, I would probably still keep Candyman, just because Candyman, you know, for my primate brain, it's very straightforward and scary. And I like Hellraiser and I get Hellraiser, but it's not my type of horror in that regard. It's really good, but I'm good.
Yeah, no, I get that. It's niche, and I think that's why it took us both off guard that Candyman's the more popular movie, because Hellraiser is so like well known, but I think it's partially that shock and awe that makes it so well known. And then the movies themselves, it's kind of like Saw. It's a little bit extreme. It's not going to be for everybody. You're not going to like round up the kids to go see the new Hellraiser movie and leave grandma in the car, you know? Not that you'd really do that for Candyman either, but maybe. Like if I had to pick between the two, family movie nights, Candyman over Hellraiser for sure. You know?
Teach a good lesson, you know. If someone says don't do something, maybe it's best. I mean, granted, both movies, I guess, do teach you that lesson. Curiosity killed the cat. But yeah, Candyman's a little bit of an easier pill to swallow, I think.
For sure. Well, I think that's all we have for Candyman and Hellraiser. Thank you guys for listening, and we will be back with another This and That. Nick, if you want to plug anything, do it now.
Yeah, n.brooks94 on Instagram. If I said that wrong, then just go to the last episode where we talked about some other great things and I said it right. And then also Pop Sub Club on Spotify or YouTube. And that's where I've interviewed people within the movie space or some friends that also like Jeanette here that loves the same stuff we do, and we just chit chat about it. And that's about it. Yeah, I don't know, I'm good.
All right. Bye, everyone. Thanks for listening.
Bye.